Hi, this is Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty, September 29th, 2012. And it's a little bit of a holiday weekend. Tomorrow is the first day of Sukkot. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The Festival of Booths, which is actually not only a Jewish holiday, but a Jewish holiday prescribed by the Bible, the Old Testament. God asked the people to observe the Festival of Booths every year for 7 days. They were supposed to live in tents as a reminder of their time that they spent in the wilderness. So, I don't know, we might eat dinner on our porch or something.
Yeah, but I want to point out that we're not particularly big into ritualistic observances, but one thing that I've noticed that Cindy is really keen on, and that's that obeying God in the things that really focus your trust on Him. And that is things like a Sabbath rest where you don't do any work and then you can refocus your life and realize that God's working through you and recharge, and things like the Festival of Booths where you take a step away. It's kind of, and many times in the Old Testament there's places where people were commanded to bring their feast to the temple, and it's not really put that way, but if you read it you realize what God's telling them is take a vacation and celebrate, and that's what your tithe is for. So if you really read it in context, you'll find that there's things like that, and Cindy's really good at picking up on those things, and it's one thing that we really need in our fast-paced and plugged-in culture today, is find ways to unplug from the daily grind of the system and refresh yourself in God. And that's why she brings it up, and I think it's really important we want to pass that on as something that we desire, not only for ourselves, but that other people would be blessed in that way, to be able to step aside and get God's perspective and recharging.
I like parties. What can I say? There's a little bit of an upset in what is often considered to be kind of a party town, which is Napa, California. It's not an audacious party town, but people really enjoy going there to drink wine, and it's a relaxed party town. But in Napa, recently a lady was arrested for writing on her sidewalk.
In chalk.
In chalk.
In chalk. It's ridiculous. You would never think that this could happen in America, and there's an outrageous bond on her in order to get her out of jail, and she's refusing to have a public defender at this point because she has to reveal all this confidential information, has to involve her employer and all this stuff that she doesn't want to do. So we're hoping that somebody will pick up her case, like Rutherford Institute or somebody like that, that will defend liberty. And goodness, when free speech in the form of chalk on a sidewalk is being attacked in America, we need to find ways to support people under this kind of attack and exercise your liberties. That's the way that they won't be taken. Don't go the opposite direction and be afraid and feel like you can't speak out. You need to do the opposite. Use it or lose it as far as your liberties go. And I'm not going to use the phrase civil liberties because this goes beyond civil. These are God-given liberties.
Yesterday on Alex Jones, there was a tremendous guest, entertaining, and just feels like a release for the liberty message and the liberty and truth community. A CNN whistleblower by the name of Amber Lyon was Alex's guest, and unfortunately, some rather sad things have happened to her. She's been let go from CNN. But she has been faithful to stand up for truth and refuse to be put in a box. And it was extremely refreshing and encouraging to hear someone on this level, of this caliber, say some of the things that she had to say yesterday.
Yeah, she was a part of producing a video a documentary, more than a video, a documentary in Bahrain about the revolution going on there that totally exposed that the United States was backing the people that were brutalizing people, and in interviewing citizens and really tracking what was going on as a true journalist would and should. That documentary has never aired on CNN or anywhere else. It's been totally, what do you call it, spiked. So she was fired for the stand she took. I'm not sure exactly whether she just insisted that it should air or what exactly she did other than speak out. Maybe she was fired specifically for speaking out. I think that was it, and telling people about this. And she's encouraging people at CNN to also speak out, and that is what we need to do. She has a real journalist's heart, wants to expose the truth, doesn't want to have state-run TV, which she more or less said that's what CNN has become or is becoming. And what a courageous person. And you would think that this is what all journalists should be, but there's been such a dumbing down that people think that journalism is standing in front of a camera and saying what you were told to say, be the talent or the face that people see. The real journalism is digging for the truth and being a part of helping to get that story out. So she's gone independent and has a Facebook and YouTube, and we'll put those links there. But it's, for us, it's so encouraging to see somebody blowing the whistle at a high level like this, because if the media like CNN gets exposed for the frauds that they are and become, America will wake up. So support Amber Lyon, support other people like that. Ben Swan, who wasn't a part of CNN, but a local affiliate, a Fox affiliate, I think, in Cincinnati or someplace in Ohio. Anyway, people like this really need your support, because they're doing what real journalism is all about, and helping people in America, in the mainstream, wake up to what's really going on.
Yeah, and she is a talent too. She's beautiful, but there are brains behind the beautiful face. So we'll put up a link to her YouTube interview with Alex yesterday, and hope that you enjoy that. We want to, speaking of YouTube, just give a little bit of a privacy pep talk. One of the truther girls, Sonia, her husband has had a YouTube channel called Barbarian Rebellion, and just by a few little slip-ups, his channel was not hacked exactly, but...
Here's what, in the link that Cindy provides, they'll explain all this, but I'll summarize it. What happened is that somebody contacted her husband, I forget his name, the Barbarian Rebellion guy, and befriended him and said, hey, I want to help promote you and get you some revenue sharing. And he let some people have access, he let this person have access to his videos, uploaded them via Skype apparently. And then what happened was, putting two and two together, the same person said, posted claims to YouTube that his channel had been hijacked and this was his channel, so YouTube shut out the real guy, gave it to this guy who now had the videos and could upload them, and by way of proving that he was the guy, which of course he wasn't. And then the channel was lost to the true owner. So then what this person did was he uploaded videos of that deliberately broke copyright, like Lady Gaga and some other stuff, and then the channel was shut down for copyright violation. So it was all part of a plan, but that would be sort of not worth mentioning if it was only one person. But in this link that we'll provide, you'll see that there is a whole list of major truth YouTube channels that were hacked in exactly this way, we believe, on the basis of what Sonia and her husband have discovered. It appears to be the same, either the same person or the same MO for doing this. So we want to put that word out there, and then there's some other incidents that we also want to mention. And putting all this together, we can definitely see that there is a strategy to sideline, minimize voices of truth people on YouTube.
And it really seems as if this is a time that wolves are on the prowl. There might be some intentional shutting down of an attacking of truther people, and as Don said, there was evidently in this specific case. But just generally, the way things are in our culture, there are crimes being committed. The police, I guess, are so busy out shaking people down and involved with the TSA and learning how to use their tasers and new drones that there are wide gaps in security in general, and a lot of scams being played on people. And for instance, RJ Hender at Morning Liberty got some weird message, allegedly, supposedly, ostensibly from the FBI, and I'll let Don share a little bit more about that. We ourselves had our return address on a piece of express mail. Certainly did not originate with us. Contained a check for several $1,000s made out to somebody. The address was bad, so it returned to us because we were, and this was, printed up express mail label with our address as a return address, and this check for thousands of dollars. So, it doesn't seem like that could have been an accident. How did somebody get our address? So it's some kind of a setup, some kind of a trap, whatever. What we really want to say is be very careful, because there are a lot of wolves out there. Our ATM card number was stolen a few weeks ago and used. People are hungry. Hungry people do desperate things. So protect yourself. Just use common sense and simple wisdom and, basic security measures. And I'll let Don share about what RJ Hender experienced.
Right. The thing that RJ had pop up on his screen as I was listening to the radio show this week was of Morning Liberty, morningliberty.com. And you can find RJ Hender on the TalkStream Live if you have iPhone. That's how I listen to him. Anyway, 9 o'clock, or not 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock every Friday is the one that we don't miss, because he's with our favorite guest, Ken Cousins. Anyway, so that's a plug, deliberate plug, because it's great info. But what RJ described was something popping up on his screen, and it wasn't really clear whether it was happening real time. I think it might have been, where it claimed to be from the FBI, and it claimed to be saying that his site was morningliberty.com, was he needed to pay $200 a day until so that they could, it wasn't clear whether once he paid it then they would stop demanding that per day thing, and then they would allow him to use his channel again. It was supposedly a fine for copyright violation, according to this on-screen message that RJ read to the audience. And Ken, I think wisely, said that sounds like a scam. That does not sound like the way the FBI operates. And then and RJ said, well, I've got some cards here from the FBI people that visited me. I'm going to give them a call and ask them about that. And Ken said, yeah, that's probably a wise thing. So that's just another little element to show you that there are these attacks going on out there. This was probably a phishing attack, a very, of course, claiming to be the FBI is a serious violation, but I wouldn't put it past the FBI to be doing that kind of thing covertly, and of course they can't get in trouble for breaking their own laws, so that's just the kind of police state we've become. So that was that item. Then there's one other item that we've noticed recently on my Facebook page, and I've heard reports of this happening with other people, where if you get into a political discussion, if the discussion turns political, the people that normally get notices, like in your pop-up area or the area where you get message notifications that somebody's replied to a post, that they're not getting them. And I had a friend that said, I would not have known about your response unless I'd gone back to your page and checked, because I didn't get my usual notification. And this is not a person that we would consider a truther or somebody that is in the fully awake community. He's seeking, and I have discussions with him. So this is exactly the kind of person that the intelligence community wants to keep from waking up, and that's what seems to be happening. That people are not getting the notifications when the discussion turns political, or it's getting about political, if non-truther people are involved and seeking and questioning and answering. They don't seem to be, from my perspective so far anyway, bothering truther people communicating with themselves. Hey, we're awake, we're passing on information. What they're trying to do is prevent the spread of the information. And of course that's why so many of us are there, so we want to spread the information, not to just already know, but people that need to know, which is all those that don't yet get what's going on. So be aware that's happening.
That's really interesting, because you and I haven't talked about that, but that happened to me this week. Actually, one of my children's friends, also my friend I've known since he was about 1.5, posted something about GMOs and said, it's a video, to all my friends in California. So it caught my eye, and it's a video about cautioning people about GMOs, encouraging people to support Proposition 37, which of course we do. And these guys that had the same last name, so evidently they're brothers, they just hammered this video, posting, 3-4 comments at a time about GMOs are like progress, and what if people had said the automobile was dangerous and we should still ride horses? I don't know, might have been a good thing, possibly. But, we're not opposed to progress. We're just opposed to soft kill weapons in our food.
We don't want to be eating and drinking weed killer. I mean, like, silly us. It's just like, okay, that's progress? You're calling me a weed? I don't get it, but go for your progress. But I just want to be informed about what I'm putting in my body, that's all.
Sure. So, yeah, that's, sometime before the elections, we'll probably donate some time. And actually, Dr. Noah is going to be doing a series of videos under the Dr. Yu auspices on Facebook, Dr. Yu, about GMOs and their health impact. But back to these guys with the same last name who were just hammering at how ignorant it is to be afraid of GMOs and so on and so forth. So I replied and wrote a comment and in support of the video. And I did my own little hammering and, put 3 or 4 comments. And then I made a mental note to check back. And I looked in my notifications a few times and didn't see anything. And then I went to my record on Facebook of what I had done, clicked on my comment, and sure enough, there were several more from these 2 guys.
Wow.
And so I just wrote some more, and I'm just manually checking back now.
Yeah.
So I guess that's maybe the best that we can do.
Right.
And there've been cyber attacks on banks this week, and I don't know how much we want to get into that, but there are a few different possibilities, I guess. Of some people in the dinar community are suggesting that the banks are simply very busy internally, so their computer resources are turned internally, so people have not been able to load their pages when they go to their website. I don't know. I don't understand how the banking computer systems work, whether that makes sense or not.
It's possible, and the most obvious possibility, though, if you know all of what's going on, is to think that the people that don't want the dinar RV to happen and the new global banking system that would facilitate to happen would be blasting the banks involved with DDoS, denial of service attacks in order to say, hey, the banks aren't secure, they're not ready, we can't let this happen. That would be a pretty last-ditch attempt to stop some financial deliverance, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. So that's a possibility from my point of view. And that's all to say that this thing is moving forward, the new financial system, and we still continue to believe and to hope that there is just too much truth getting out there about the way the world's financial system really works for the genie to be put back in the bottle and people to go back into their own enslavement and to continue to use their FRNs as if they were real money. It's just too many people know now, and there's whether or not we can, the powers that be can continue to, or the powers that were, as some people like to call them, continue to operate this enslavement system and impose as the saviors and offer something new. Well, that remains to be seen. But one of the things we want to talk about is to keep your hope, but the hope needs to be grounded in how much freedom and the destiny of humanity is a part of who you are individually in your innermost being. And one of the blogs I read this week was John Rappaport, and talking about the beauty of freedom and the freedom of thought. And it was just a wonderful article. And he talks about these experiences of himself and as other people, as an artist looking at a blank sheet of paper and realizing he could draw anything. And when you, but what it was much more than a thought. It was an existential experience in which he realized that freedom is very real, and the personal choice we've been given is very real. We're not automatons, we're not robots, and the system is continually trying to make us into them through advertising and through all kinds of control mechanisms, finances, and every single which way is trying to get us to lose our desire for freedom as our deepest need. And it really is. And it's the way that I see it as a Christian, is that's what Jesus died for. He died for you to be free. One of my favorite quotes from John F. Kennedy in his very famous speech on the President and the Press, The Secret Societies, is where he says that man will be what he was born to be, free and independent. And that is our destiny, and that is what we are fighting for right now. Read a very interesting Richard Gazowski blog that was just on Friday. It gets sent by email now, so it's not available posting. But he's talking in that blog about how don't sell out for second best. It's like a game show where so many people think that they're promised this great prize, the mansion or whatever it is, and they down the line realize they might not get that, so they've got to settle for this. And so many people, he's talking to Christians now, settle for less than God's best just because they lose faith in God's goodness and God's real desire to give them the best. So I think that's the time that we're in now, this time of testing, as I mentioned last week, this time of holding on to your hope and not selling out to something lesser. And of course this is right along the lines of this presidential election that we're in right now, where so many liberty-minded and Christian people are thinking, oh gosh, I've got to support Romney because he's so bad. I'm saying don't go with the lesser of two evils. That's a false hope. That's the second best. Don't go there. The most valuable thing is you have is your inner man, your conscience. You've got to go with that. And I won't tell you how that plays out for you, but I will say that God wants the best for everyone, and the world system is continually trying to sell you something second rate. But don't do it.
Tomorrow is the last day of the fiscal year for the United States Corporation, and I'll let Don explain what the United States Corporation is. But this week, that Benjamin Fulford's headline for his blog had to do with, what's going to happen next. The fiscal year is ending, and as Don mentioned, there is potential for the banking system to have dramatic changes very soon. And perhaps change is imminent with the end of the fiscal year. Wouldn't that be nice?
I think that we've discussed this before, and it kind of ties in with our experiences with RUSA, Republic for the United States of America, that organization, and also the organization TUSA, because that was the rallying cry of both of those organizations, still is. And even Benjamin Fulford in his blog this week came right out and said it. He said, this is the end of the fiscal year for the U.S. corporation as opposed to the Republic of the United States. Now, those are two different things. When people research the history, they go back to different points, and I think some of the people don't research back far enough. There's a large group of people that are saying that the United States Corporation began after Abraham Lincoln in 1871, I believe it is. But some people, and I fall into this group, say no, it went back to the very beginning. It went back to the Constitution. The Constitution was actually a corporate document, and you'll find if you research on 1215.org, Bill, the guy that runs the 1215.org site, he mentions that the Constitution is a corporate document, and he's right, in my opinion. This goes back to the very beginning, and when you have the Treaty of Paris being signed by King George III as the arch-treasurer and elector, whatever it is, of the Holy Roman Empire, other fantastic titles he gives himself in that treaty, and the phrase he uses is the little t, United States of America, you realize that is the entity for which the Constitution was drafted later. So the styling of the name is very important, and that's the claim of that I agree with from a legal and a logical context of the TUSA people, the United States for America, because that entity was created with the Declaration of Independence. Okay, all that is kind of a sideline or different trails that you can go down when you try to research this thing. The key point is this, that what's in control right now is not what we think it is. What we are dealing with is a counterfeit. The different side trails that these people go down, all agree on that. That's the key point, is that what we have in charge right now is a corporation. How to get control back, that's another question. But I thought it was encouraging that this week Benjamin Fulford raised that awareness of that whole issue up, and telling us that he's aware of these different movements that are an attempt to bring restoration. How we get there is another question. As we've said, we've been involved with these groups. They're lacking, they're missing pieces, and we've come to the conclusion we just have to continue to raise awareness at the grassroots level. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're telling you about this. But that's another reason not to get sucked into the false hope of candidate A versus candidate B, because the whole system is flawed, because it's not a true republic anymore.
And that's supposedly one reason why the Constitution is not always followed, because the corporation is not beholden to the laws of the Republic.
This whole thing about constitutional rights and your legal standing, this perspective of realizing that our government is now strayed away from a republic that is governed by the Constitution, explains a lot. It explains why people's constitutional rights are getting violated with willy-nilly without cause, because it's all, the functioning government is a corporation. It's not being managed by the Constitution anymore. That's no longer the functional document. That is the legal document that's underlying us. We've been sold a bill of goods. We've been, false identities were created for us. We are corporate entities into a corporate system. And when I said we are, I don't mean that I am. That's the fictitious. There is a fictitious all caps franchise name that the corporation uses and says that it's me. That's not me. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's very, very factual that backs up all that I'm saying, and more people are finding it out. That's my point. And you need to discover what your true legal standing is. Unfortunately, you can't claim constitutional rights because you don't have the legal standing to do so. That you have been made a stateless entity, and you are not a signer to these documents, etc., etc. So the system has done all this by subterfuge, so it's all fraud, but we need to be wise in how we regain this stuff back. And yes, standing up for your rights is one thing. The more people that do it, the better. The fraud is being exposed, but you can't just say, those are my constitutional rights, and magically get them. You have to know the tricks that are being played on you and counter them wisely.
Just some food for thought. We know we're just kind of throwing this out, but we do thank you for watching this week, and we hope that you have a great week.
See the world the way that it really is. See your true self in it, and walk your walk. You are the answer that you've been waiting for.